Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Unsustainable Wednesdays. Yep, that episode you all wait for, and
Usually comes out Wednesdays.
usually comes out Wednesdays. Sometimes it comes out on Thursdays. Usually on Wednesdays, though. It's been, so far, we're on a 1-week streak here of it being on a Wednesday. I can't promise. It's kind of like Monsters, Inc., where it's like X days till an accident. Yeah, well, this is the same thing, just X weeks on a Wednesday. So far, we're up to 1. It's kind of like a new record. So, let's jump into this. Now, hold on, actually. Before we jump into this episode, there's 2 things to talk about. Now, I was going to save this for 10 takes, but the first thing we need to talk about is COVID. What the hell? With all
I don't
these
even know what there's to
postponements.
say anymore.
I mean, okay, so there was a lot of talk, some questions I saw on Twitter and stuff about what to do about the season. So 1, like, do we think it's going to finish? And 2, what to do about, like, payouts and how you might consider handling a league. Now, I have some ideas there, but I don't know.
The annoying part is that, like, I feel like for a lot of us, myself included, we basically, like, pushed last season's payouts forward. Mm-hmm. And now we're in another season where, like, what do you do here? Because, like, and I honestly, like, I've heard so many different ways to attempt to handle this, and none of them have made any sense to me. I also don't understand why. Well, I guess I do understand a little bit, but Yahoo not marking people NA instead of just like any status day to day. Why does NA need to be what we're marking people that are out with COVID or out on protocol or whatever? Like, and for some reason that status doesn't allow you to go to IR plus, which is like the main reason a lot of us are using IR plus this season. So,
but it's weird because then some players get out designations once they're on the COVID protocol, but then your postponed game doesn't get IR plus eligibility. Right. It's just all
or it'll go back and forth
mess.
From out to NA just like randomly. Like we've seen Blackwood go back and forth. It sucks. It's honestly like, and I like I said, I've heard people say, oh, add some NA slots or add some bench slots and like try to enforce it in such a way that people can only use the bench for COVID protocol. And it's like, I think that's fine if you're running like a league and everybody's like friends, but if you're with random people or it's really, really hard to manage leagues like that because people will knowingly or otherwise take advantage of it. They may not even read your message and just see there's extra bench slots added. And then you have to come up with the idea that we're 4 weeks in now, right? And we're trying to figure out if we should be adding bench spots or extra IR slots. And like, those are like, they change the integrity of the contest.
And I mean, what's also going to change the integrity is the fact that at this point, if the NHL doesn't get it under control, and I'm assuming at this point that they're not going to because they've had many an opportunity and it just keeps getting worse and worse, especially, outside of the North Division. But if they don't get it under control, we're looking at a situation here soon where there's not going to be room to make up games. Yeah. Teams are just going to have to go on point percentage, which means that if you had taken a Minnesota player or a Devils player or one of these players that isn't going to get enough games, you're screwed. Like, especially, I mean, imagine if this starts to happen with Boston. If you took Pasta, Marchand, Bergeron, these teams with big names, you are screwed in a way that you had never have been before. And so I think what bugs me more about this season than seasons prior is that normally fantasy, there's quite a bit of skill involved. The smartest player will more often than not win, right? This season, it doesn't really feel like that. You can draft the best team. You can pick up the best players. And it's all just going to come down to luck of whether you have postponements or not, it feels like. Or you might be playing someone with a ton of postponements. Like, there just seems to be so much luck involved that it's really bugging me because it doesn't feel like a season where you have any control. Mm-hmm. And that's what's frustrating me the most. And so I think when it comes to the payout part of it, to me, the only way to tackle that is if your league is in consensus to cancel the payout. That's the only, you can't, I think, as a commissioner, just nullify the payout. You've got to put it to vote. On top
Yeah.
of that, when it comes, I think where it's going to get really tough is, trades and stuff that are happening right now. If you decide to nullify the season or something, what do you do with all of that? And I've got no answers right now for you there. I think if there's been trades and stuff in the season and some teams have mortgaged the future, it's really unfair to those teams that have made trades and played, by the rules for all intents and purposes, unless you're just going to revert all the trades. If you're going to revert all the trades, that's fine. But in a keeper or dynasty where trades have been made, it's really tough. In a dynasty, it's where I really disagree with canceling the payouts or canceling the season entirely because, like Brandon, he has an older team, one that's built to win now. If you take away the payouts from the season, you're ruining a whole year of Brandon's potential title run. It's just it's all just crazy.
Yeah, we actually having this sort of debate it's not even really a debate. I don't think it's been seriously suggested to cancel the payouts, but like it was brought up, and my response was like, I mean, I don't really have the answers here, but 1 year is a big amount of equity for what's really remaining on my team. So
Yeah.
and I don't know, but it does feel way less skill based and more just like, boy, I hope I don't lose 2 weeks of a player that I can't even stash, that I can't drop either because he's too good. It's like
Yep.
it's bad.
Now, I will say this: if you haven't already, this is going to be a little plug really quick. Now, if you haven't already, or if you don't know, Brandon and I in the off season built a fantasy app. I designed it. Brandon is the CEO, and he also built the iOS app. And we've got some friends on it that helped us build it. And one of the ways that it actually kind of helps combat all these problems, honestly, is it's daily drafts. So you can go in and for any day you draft a team against people for money, and you're not going to be hit by postponements, but you still get that thrill of the draft and following the game. And on top of that, we also have not in every state, but in Canada we do, and in parts of the U.S. we have player prop pick'em. So you go in and you can build a slip and take your picks on players every single night. So I would check it out if you haven't already. Underdog Fantasy is the name. I'm wearing the hat actually today. Didn't do it on purpose, but I am. This
I
is the
still don't
logo.
have a hat
This is my
somehow.
dog. I don't know how you haven't gotten a hat. You're the CEO and you don't have a hat of your company. That tells you how much we believe in it. Well, we believe in it a lot. So anyways, check that out. It's on the app stores, on both Play Store and App Store, or underdogfantasy.com. So definitely check that out and let us know what you think. We're obviously hockey fans. We try to build a pretty cool hockey product compared to a lot of people out there. So definitely let us know what you think. So now, after talking about COVID for a long time and Underdog Fantasy, let's jump into the unsustainable calls. So I'll start off with my first unsustainably high call here. And that's going to be, and kind of obvious one, someone who is actually sustainably high, but is now moved quickly into unsustainably high territory. And that's going to be Jeff Petrie.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit has changed in these last few days. He scored a lot of goals. So his shooting percentage on the season is up to 18.8%. That's insanely high for a defenseman. Last year he shot at 7%. He's actually a high shooting percentage defenseman. 8% the year before last year, and then 7% last year. So he is a high shooting percentage defenseman, but not a 19% shooting defenseman. The other thing that's crazy is he has a 19% on ice shooting percentage. His IPP is fine. That's not a problem. It's that on ice shooting percentage and his own shooting percentage that's a problem. So right now he's on a 96 point pace, again, assuming 82 game season. I would expect him to be more like a 65-ish point defenseman. I think he really could contend for the Norris if Montreal continues, just because he's the one that's factored in all the points. It's insane. And we haven't seen many other defensemen this season really break out, aside from Jeff Petrie, it seems. So I'm still high on him. I'm not saying that I'm not high on him, but he is unsustainably high. And at this point, if someone is coming and knocking on the door for Jeff Petrie, I'd listen.
Yeah,
Before,
for sure.
maybe not so much, but right now, absolutely I am listening. Yet, at the same time, say that this comes back down to earth, right? If this all comes back down to earth, but Petrie continues to have that same IPP, Montreal continues to be good, and he has a better on-ice shooting percentage than he did last year, say it stays at around 11%-ish on the season, you might be trading away a Norris winning defenseman. So
I mean, his value's gone up, regardless if you believe that he'll be anywhere near where he is now.
agreed. What I'm saying, I think, is from a value over replacement standpoint, I don't know if what you get back is worth the potential, unless you're like doing obviously like silly stuff like Pasternak or something. Like outside of like those top guys, are you getting back like the value in a ceiling that Petrie gives you? I don't know. And that's where it gets tough. But if someone comes knocking, I'd absolutely listen, and I target as high as you can go with Jeff Petrie, honestly, at this point.
Yep. My first one here is he's been on here before, and he is turning into like the Nick Schmaltz of this season. I feel like that's Joel Farabee.
Oh yeah.
So he had a couple games where he just puts up bunches of points at the same time, and then long stretches of goose eggs. And I think the goose eggs are the norm, obviously, but I mean, he's sitting at like a nearly point per game pace right now, a crazy last few games, like I mentioned, and there's really nothing to suggest that it should be anywhere near where it is right now. I know that line has been going well, Farabee, Lawton, and JVR, but there's nothing that tells me that Farabee should be the one that's being the benefited so much by this. His ice time is roughly the same as last season. He's shooting a bit more, which is nice, and probably suggests that he should be better than a 30-point guy, which was his pace last season, but certainly not an 80-point guy. I think that Farabee this season is probably more like a 40 to 45-point player on an 82-game season. But the things that are easiest to point out of why he's blowing up so much is his on-ice shooting is like nearly double. It is over double what it was last season right now. He's got like 20% over his last stretch of getting a ton of points, which is way too high. Last season was 11%, which considering his line is also pretty high, and his IPP is also that's his ability to kind of be in on the points when they happen when he's on the ice, is higher than I would expect for him to. It's sitting at about 80% on the season, and 80%, it's really hard for even the most elite player to be at that percentage for any period of time. And I really don't think Farabee's a super elite player. So I realistically think his IPP last season it was 53%. I do think he could see it get north of that and be 60%, maybe 65 on a good year. But this 80% stuff is just insane. He still doesn't get good power play time. I think if you have him, you should be happy with a 50-point pace and not really be expecting much more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Farabee obviously projects to be really good, but right now, not huge on it. My next one here is going to be
Christian Dvorak. Yep. The Nick Schmaltz on
the Nick Schmaltz team. Mm-hmm.
Did you intentionally change your mic?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
You got to stop doing this.
If you're missing, if you're not listening live, it's because I did this to Brandon earlier. I had to do it to him in the episode itself. He's mad at me. I can't see him. I know he's mad at me. I won't do it anymore. I'm sorry, but it was funny. It was a little bit, just a teensy bit. Anyways, Christian Dvorak. There's one big positive about Christian Dvorak is his time on ice has skyrocketed. So last season he played about 17 minutes of time on ice. This year he's gone up 2 whole minutes to 19. A large chunk of that does come from extra power play time, but he was getting pretty decent power play time last year. So what is different this year? And I will say there are Arizona players I'm high on, and there's Arizona players that I think are unsustainably high. So we'll get to the ones that I think are good. But right now Christian Dvorak shooting at 26%, way too high. His IPP is 87%. So as you were talking about with Farabee, it's the same thing, right? Like he's not going to be an 87% IPP guy. He's more of like a 60-ish, 65% guy. That's what you'd expect. So these points are going to come down. Now, what's kind of interesting to me, actually, and does give me some promise here for Dvorak, is if you adjust his goals back down to his expected goals for, he's actually an 18% shooter. Which is kind of interesting that his expected goals for actually does give him a really high shooting percentage, which kind of justifies it in a way. It doesn't. I think he's going to be more of like a 14% shooter. He was 13% last year, actually. So he is a high. It seems like he could be a high percentage shooter. But that 25% just too high. I think Dvorak will come back down to earth. Still a good player on the season, I think. and a good pickup in the near term. But I think to expect what he's doing right now would be foolish.
Yeah, of course. I also don't know that. I don't know that I there's a lot to like about Dvorak. I don't like his line. Kajula and Pitlick, even like I don't know, man. I think that he's been obviously a bit fortuitous with what's been going on the ice with him around lately. I would like to see better line mates, and then I would buy into Dvorak more. But like you mentioned, I think there are better targets in Arizona.
Yeah.
He was on my list as well. My last one here is Torrey Krug. Weirdly enough, I feel like if you don't have him on your roster, you probably don't know that he's been pretty good lately. Over the last couple weeks, he's got 6 points in 7 games. But the reason he's on here is because he's not getting it done on the power play. Really, it's this. I don't know that you can really point to Krug as being the reason. I mean, how could you? But if they can't get that power play together, Krug is not going to have a good season. He's certainly not going to have anything like a 60-point season, which is his pace over the last week, or a 70-point season, which is his pace over the last 2 weeks. It's just, it can't happen. You look around the league, you will never find a defenseman that puts up numbers like that without getting significant power play points. He has, one power play point on the season.
That is insane.
And that did happen within those last 2 weeks, but of his 6 points, only one is the power. It's not enough. Typically, what you see from a good power play defenseman, which Torrey Krug is something like somewhere between a 20 to 30 power play point pace at least. Last season, he was on a 38. I would expect Krug to be around a 30 power play point guy, and that's what he needs to be able to be a 60 to 70 point player, which is kind of what I think people wanted to see from him on that St. Louis power play, especially with Hoffman there. But it's not that he's definitely going to stay unsustainably high, but I don't see him being able to adjust to be able to keep these numbers up unless something turns around very quickly with that awful power play. I don't know what is going on over there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's kind of nuts to me that he only has one power play point. St. Louis hasn't figured out that power play. They're struggling a lot against Arizona. They don't seem to have it figured out.
No, they have all the tools, so
they do.
I don't see why they haven't changed the whatever.
Yeah, it's not even
as
worth
a disgruntled
it
Hoffman owner, you can imagine.
Oh, I'm so glad I shipped him off. Whew. I can breathe a huge sigh of relief there. My last one here for Unsustainably High is going to be Jordan Stahl in Carolina. I couldn't think of a more unsustainably high. It looks like I'm looking at Nick Schmaltz numbers, but just even worse. 18% shooting when he's more of like a 9% guy, 10% guy normally. His on-ice shooting percentage is 16%. His IPP is 90%. Everything here is coming down, folks. Everything. Jordan Stahl is essentially a 45-point guy, currently playing as a 92-point guy. Keep him while he's hot. Try to ship him if you can, I guess, but I don't think you will. He was available on the wire in most of my leagues. I picked him up while he was hot right now, but I'm giving him a super short leash, especially now that Trocheck's out. But yeah, he's going to come back down to earth real quick.
I like him better than 45 points this season. The main reason being that he's on that power play. I know he was a bit last season, but the crazy thing to me is when Turbo came back, Turbo was power play 2. Stahl got to keep his power play 1 slot. Which is interesting.
The only reason I'll push back on that is 2 years ago, Jordan Stahl played 18 and a half minutes a game, and he mustered up 46 points. Or a 46-point pace. I just don't see him. Sure, 40. Maybe put him in that 45 to 50 range, right? Whatever, somewhere in there, I guess.
I would give him 50 to 55.
That's
with good
still
peripherals.
Still for a center, that's not great. Like I'm not. His shot pace is absolutely terrible this year, down a ton, especially from years prior. It's on a 113 shot pace. His hit pace is really good, so he's got that going for him, but his shots are terrible. Yeah. I don't know. As a pure center, I'd rather go in other directions than Jordan Stahl right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously not going to be
at least
point per game or anything, but
yeah.
I also think that team is fundamentally different than it was a couple years ago.
That's fair.
To be fair,
that is fair.
But yeah, I mean, funny enough, I actually have him on my Dynasty team as well, and I was just waiting to drop him this season as he's kind of aging out of usefulness. But good Lord, is he hitting a lot.
Oh, yeah. He's hitting so much.
He's also
Okay.
a very good face-off person. So for face-off leagues.
Yeah.
Okay. My first one here. Oh, wait. That was the end of Unsustainably High, right? Do you have any more?
Yep. Nope. So
do?
let's move into
Great.
Unsustainably Low.
Okay, Unsustainably Low. First one, I have Anthony Duclair here.
Yep. I have the same guy first.
Yeah. There's a lot to like and a little bit not to like. I feel like I've harped on this enough that I'm almost even on my own right starting to be like, how much weight should I put in this? And that's like his likelihood of being top power play long term. We saw, I mean, we're recording this Tuesday night. We just saw a Florida power play goal with an Ekblad primary, so that makes me think that Duclair once again was knocked off that top power play unit. I haven't looked into it, but at some point, I do think that he will get an extended look there. But what I like most about him is his ability to shoot the puck and his willingness to do so, and the fact that his IPP is a little low. I do think that, especially over these last couple of weeks, he has been snake bitten for sure. He should have at least a couple of goals in there. He has 0 over the last 2 weeks, and maybe he doesn't get a power play point, but he should have one by now. He's not like super far off. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's on a 55-point pace that should probably be on a 65-point pace or so. But I just think that specifically these last handful of games are not indicative of what to expect from Duclair long term. As long as his deployment stays similar.
Yeah, for sure. I'd agree with that. I mean, I think the other thing to consider there too is his expected goals for is about 2.5, and he's currently sitting at 2 or 0. Sorry. So like he should be a lot better. And you're right. Right now, they did move Duclair off of that top power play. But they did try it. So for 31% of the time on the power play, they did try Huberdeau, Hornquist, and Duclair. I guess Barkov was in the box or something, actually, so never mind. Duclair's not on the top power play this game. Yandel and Ekblad are back on that top power play, so Duclair is bumped off. So I have Duclair unsus low as well, but I actually don't think you should hold him. I think at this point you might as well just put him on the wire, and I think if you miss out on him, you're going to be okay. Just because there's so many other good players on the wire, grab him if, he ends up on top power play. But for now, I just don't think it's worth holding. So my next guy here is Teuvo Teravainen on sus low.
Oh, I have him on sus low because of the power play and because he got bumped off Aho's line.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm at. I'm like, I see he reminds me of Duclair, where I see this potential. He has 0% shooting. On his shooting percentage is 8.3 versus his normal 11. He has a 33% IPP, so he's involved in nothing right now so far. Obviously, no shooting percentage. So on one hand, yes, he's sus low because he's off of that unit, right? But at the same time, to me, he's unsus low, where he's got to be better than this. I don't know what is better than this. That's the question. I don't know is he a 70-point guy again, or is he more of like a 55, 60-point guy after all this is said and done and corrects itself? That's what I don't know. But I think ultimately he is an unsus low, where he's got to do better than he's doing now. My big question mark is, what is that better?
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't get power play 1, I think he's in big trouble.
Yeah.
He was on a 25-point power play point pace last season, which, bumped his numbers up quite a bit, obviously. Without that, he's waiver material in most leagues if he can't get on the top power play.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, my next one here is Bo Horvat.
I have him too.
Yeah, he's been a little weak lately, but there's really not too much to be concerned with other than the shot drop. I don't really have a ton of explanations for that, but for the most part, everything is kind of in line with what we've seen from him. He's never been the most interesting player. You're talking about a guy that's around a 60-point player. That's where he is on the season anyway, around a 60-point player. He's been a little slow lately, but I mean, he's kind of, peaks and valleys for everybody here, and he's in a valley right now. I don't really expect that to stick around long term. There has been a bit of shuffling with the lines over there, but He's still playing top power play. He's still fine. His power play point pace is actually higher than it was last season. So, if anything, the only concern I have is his shots, and I'm not overly concerned yet. So, don't panic. He'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. And that was it for me because you stole Duclair and Horvat from me. So,
No, I've got one more.
Okay, take your last
I think
one.
this one I don't know how contentious this one's going to be, actually, because I could see arguments from both sides. But my last one here is Rasmus Anderson, actually. And it's not so much that I expect Rasmus Anderson to be, a premier defenseman, but I do think that Calgary is good enough in a division that's weak enough for him to put up enough points to matter. I think that his IPP is weirdly low. He's sitting at like 40%. That's 20% below where I expect him to be.
No,
I think
he's a defenseman.
Yeah, I know.
Defensemen don't have
50%.
that high
I would expect him to be at
IPPs.
50%.
Okay,
around.
okay, 10% lower. Okay, that's more.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean like 20% difference from where he is. So
sure.
not-
I mean,
20% of whatever. He's doing 20% worse than I expect him to be doing right now.
Torrey Krug on Boston was a 55% IPP. He's currently at 40% on St. Louis. Like, I don't think Rasmus Anderson is getting up to 50% IPP personally.
I think he could on the power
I don't
play.
buy that
I don't think
I
at
don't
even
buy that
strength he does.
Yeah,
That's the difference, though. I
I
think
don't
that
really buy it.
I think that on the power play is where he's going to get all of his value, right? So, I mean, I don't think his even strength IPP will never be elite. But if he gets anything, it's going to be from the power play. And he's, as of now, is still there. They may change that up. If they do, then he immediately becomes almost worthless. But the fact that he suddenly is not being able to get anything done there is just weird to me. There's nothing that really adds up. He's still on like a decent power play point pace on the season, but they haven't come lately. And there's really nothing that's changed for him. He's besides the on-ice shooting, which is like the obvious thing that's messed up. Over the last few games, the puck just hasn't gone in the net at all with him around, and he has not been a part of it if it has. So both of those things are down for him.
So, well, in the time something happened with my computer, so I had to pause, and my light now turned off. It's all chaotic.
It's trying to save you from your terrible take you're about to make. But go ahead.
Okay, listen. I have Rasmus Anderson on Sustainably Low, and I've actually dropped him in 2 of my leagues. I think Calgary might actually be bad. And this whole thing of, sure, his on-ice shooting percentage is low. I agree with that. But I actually think Calgary might be bad. And the beginning of the season Calgary that we saw was just over-indexed Calgary. And Rasmus Anderson benefited from that. And will he get better? Yes. He reminds me a little bit of like Duclair, right? Where, yes, that potential is there. I just don't think it's worth it. It's the same as Duclair to me. Rasmus Anderson right now is not worth holding. And the thing with Rasmus Anderson is I don't even know if he's going to pick it up to a point that's actually serviceable, especially in points leagues. And when you consider points league versus cats leagues, at least he's getting you some blocks. In a points league,
Not hits, though, or shots.
No, yeah, nothing else. It's almost in like any league, I can't really justify holding him at this point. Like, I don't know. I have him on sus low. I think Calgary might actually be pretty brutal, and I don't know what they're doing over there. It's Sam Bennett's top line now. They seem to just be a really low scoring team. They seem to be kind of trying to do the Dallas Arizona thing where they have a good goaltender and try to ride that out. So I'm low on Rasmus Anderson personally. While I understand him being an unsus low, it makes sense. I think he's just overall a sus low player, and I'm sus on Rasmus Anderson. Don't make me turn on the chipmunk voice again. I'll do it.
Don't do it.
I will. I have that in my back pocket now.
I think
know.
that takes care of Unsus Low, though.
That does. So let's move on to sus high. And we had spoken a little bit about Arizona players that were worth it. And my first one here is going to be Connor Garland. If you watch the show religiously, you'll know that at the beginning of the season, even in preseason, we mentioned how if Connor Garland got minutes, he could become the real deal in a lot of areas. His shot pace could be incredible. He would be getting points, and that has happened so far. So Connor Garland now, his minutes have gone up quite a bit from last season. They've almost doubled. with that comes an insane shot pace. He's on a 321 shot pace at the moment. That's absurd, but amazing. And on top of that, his expected goals for is 5, and he has 5 goals. Right in line. His IPP, 72%. Right in line. His on-ice shooting percentage is a little bit high for Arizona at 12.3%, but honestly, it's not that far off. Like even right now, he's on an 89-point pace. Bring down that on-ice shooting percentage just a little bit, and he's what, point per game? A little bit under point per game? To me, Connor Garland very much could be between a 70 and point per game guy this year. Maybe a hot take, but I am very high on Connor Garland the rest of the season. As long as he keeps this deployment. They could change it all up, and that screws him. Yep. But I think I very much believe in Connor Garland this year.
Yep. I mean, that makes sense. My first one here is Max Pacioretty.
Ooh, yes, I like this.
He's actually like in the very, very short term, these last few games where he's got 7 points in 3 games. Obviously, that's not going to be as sustainably high as that. He's not Connor McDavid or anything. But the thing is, I was a little worried coming into the season, honestly, with Patches. We're talking about another year on an aging player on a team that may not need him to be who he was last season. Like they're just so deep that they don't need to play him 17 minutes a game if they don't want to. And yet he's exactly who he was last season. It's amazing. He's shooting like a crazy person. He's probably going to wind up top 5 in shots. Like he might even be first overall in shots by the end of the league, end of the season. He's still a great goal scorer. Everything's right in line. His IPP is actually down from last season. It's at 65%, and that's with him having well above a point per game pace at the moment. He's still featured on the power play. He does okay with it, just like he did last season. He wasn't a great power play guy. In fact, if he actually did get elite power play numbers, where if they were to play a stacked top line at 75% of the time or so, like a lot of teams do, he would be even better than he is now. His on-ice shooting is a little high, but he's playing with Mark Stone. I mean, it doesn't even really matter who centers him at that point, as we've sort of seen. No offense to Chandler Stevenson, but he's the total package, and he hits. What a bonus! I think if you're wondering, I don't know, if somebody's trying to ship you Patches and you're wondering if they're selling high, they're not. He's just good.
Yep. I agree. I love Pacioretty, and I think, like you said, the fact that he's going to end up first in shots and he's still just as good as he was last year is unreal. My next one, the real trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois, Jack Roslovic.
Yep, I got him too.
Yep, that's who they really. That was the 4D chess move from Jarmo. I'm not saying it. From Jarmo, the real 4D chess move was getting Roslovic, apparently, who is playing pretty insane minutes in Columbus and killing it. And I'm really high on him. I'm loving his shots. I'm loving how he's playing. I'm loving the 20 minutes a game. He looks really good. And to me, as long as he continues his deployment and is in the good graces of John Tortorella, I like Jack Roslovic. I'm pissed that I missed out on him in my keeper league. I would have picked him up. I was so close and I didn't, and someone sniped me on him. But I'm long Jack Roslovic right now.
Yeah, I am too. I would like to see him get a little bit higher power play percentage, and his IPP is literally 100. So there's that. But you'd imagine that'll calm down a bit, but I don't think any of us are expecting him to keep up some of the pace he's doing. He's also not shooting as much as I'd like, but the ice time it's hard to argue with. And he didn't get benched for the third period or anything like that, so I think there's a lot to like, and I think it seems like Tortorella hates all of his centers, so if Roslovic is the guy that winds up in the good graces, he could really wind up benefiting from that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I have one more, and that's Tim Stützle.
Ooh.
Now, this comes with a caveat that, even with the increase in play from him, I don't necessarily think he's a grab or a hold in a lot of leagues, but he's trending in the right direction. We're seeing the shooting pace come up. We're seeing the ice time come up, which is the reason the shooting pace is coming up. We're seeing the power play percentage come up. We're basically seeing this transition for him to be a pivotal member of the team, as opposed to like essentially a tryout in a way, where they were just giving him, 13, 14 minutes, easing him in. I don't think there's going to be any more of that. He's playing 17 minutes a night or so lately. I think that's going to keep up. He played 17 minutes again tonight against Edmonton. No points to show for it, but I really do think that he's trending in the right direction. We'll see if they give him, consistent line mates that he can actually work with. I mean, how really could they, besides Kachuk, who I think they both are not going to play with each other since they both prefer left wing, but it's possible, I guess. But he really doesn't have a whole lot of supporting cast, and it's Ottawa, so even the best case for him is still not a huge upside, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair. I do have one more here, and it's going to be one of those sus high. I would not be selling high on this guy right now, is Alexander Barkov. Mm-hmm. There is no reason to sell Barkov right now. 100-point pace, 11% shooting, right in line. He is literally on the nose for his expected goals for. A 65% IPP, which is the exact same as last year. 12.3% on-ice shooting. This guy is the real deal. His shot pace is up tremendously this year, up to 337 shot pace from 214 last year. He is on a tear. That line is killing it for him right now, and so is that power play. I am not selling Alexander Barkov right now for the world. On top of that, his secondary assist rate right now is actually low, like extremely low. He should probably be getting about double the assists he's getting right now, or could potentially get quite a bit more. So a point per game Alexander Barkov or better seems almost like a guarantee at this point. You could very much be seeing much better than that.
It's all the power play. We'll see if they can keep this heat.
Well,
but man,
that's the thing. He only has 5 power play points.
Yeah, but that still puts him on a
11.
46 power play point pace.
Yeah, that's true.
That's high.
just a bit.
That might be the highest that we'll see this season if that were to get there.
Although, the thing is, the year before last year, he got 31.
Yeah, I mean, he's capable of... I mean, we've always known Florida to be a pretty high power play point team regardless.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't surprise me too much for him to be up there, but not north of 40. That would be crazy.
No, not north of 40. I mean, I think the acquisition of Hornquist helps a lot, but not that much.
And actually playing Yandel instead of, thumping your chest about how we're going to definitely scratch him or whatever they were doing at the beginning of the season. Yeah.
So I've only got one sus low. So I'm going to take that and then let you run through yours. So my one here, this one pains me, and I don't know if you agree with it. Anthony Mantha.
I know what you're going to say, yeah.
Yeah. He's sus low, unfortunately. He is just not doing it anymore. I mean, it seems that he's checked out. That's how it feels. That's how it seems. Seems checked out. Seems he doesn't get along with the coach. Can he get better? Can he do better than right now? Absolutely. The thing is, though, I don't think you'll need to wait for it. But aside from that, the reason you grabbed Mantha so late was for that ceiling, right? That's why you took the gamble on a guy like Mantha, is you were gambling on that ceiling. I don't see that ceiling anymore. I don't see that wild ceiling for Mantha that's going to make me think, wow, I'm so glad I got him. That to me seems gone. And because of that, I'm very low on him because I'd rather just gamble on the wire potentially. I haven't dropped him yet for what it's worth, but I'm very close. I'm about 2 games away from dropping him. He plays Tampa here next. Or no, he doesn't play Tampa. He plays, I don't remember who he plays. But well, I guess anyone Detroit plays is hard because Detroit is awful. I mean, if you look at Mantha, one of the craziest things with Mantha on the season, at least, is that he has a 13% shooting, a 78% IPP, very good, an 8% or 7.5% on ice shooting. So that's low, but he's on a 48-point pace. That's not good. I mean, and his shots are down a lot. If you bring up that on-ice shooting percentage to what you probably expect from Detroit, which honestly is only like 9 to 10%, that pace doesn't get that much better. So I'm low on that ceiling on Mantha, which sucks, and that was personally the only reason to hold Mantha. especially if he's not on top line. Ooh, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Well, I said that Turbo is in mine, so I only have one left. And that is
Oh
Travis
boy, this
Konechny.
chuckle. No,
Yeah.
he's just warming up.
No.
He's just the cheeks are getting warm on the bench. That's all.
It's not good.
No,
It's
there's
been
heaters.
really, really brutal over the last 2 weeks. He's on a 55 shot pace over 2 weeks.
He's a 2 week on guy, 2 week off guy. This is his off 2 weeks.
Also, nowhere near the power play percentage that he was at last season. And what made the big difference for him? What made the breakout season for him? He got 29 power play points. Well, he was on that pace. He had 23 power play points of his 61. That's a healthy chunk. He's not getting that if he's not getting proper power play time, and he hasn't been. He's got 0 in his last two weeks. I mean, he's only got 1 point, so I mean, what are you really going to do? But I don't know, man. I luckily don't have any Konechny shares anyway, so it doesn't really matter for me, but I would be seriously considering dropping him at this point in most leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, name value is fun considering how good he was last season, but man, he's just not a shooter, and he doesn't give you much to hang on to him with if he's not getting points.
I unfortunately got to agree. I almost put him on here too. I just couldn't out of, well, many reasons, but I just couldn't put him on this list. I just couldn't do it. But I agree with you. It's been brutal. I don't see that upside. I think with just the depth that the Flyers have, there's no reason to force Konechny in when he's not, crushing it. So yeah, I can't recommend holding Konechny at this point. And for now, just wait till 2 week Konechny, 2 week Travis turns it on again. Konechny is not PD at the moment. Safe to say.
Yeah.
I should have said that in a chipmunk voice.
I'm glad you didn't.
Missed opportunity. Anyways, that is the Unsustainable episode. Hopefully you enjoyed. Definitely check out Underdog Fantasy if you haven't already. App Store or UnderdogFantasy.com. It would make us very happy. And other than that, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Thanks for listening.